we're just 9 days away from the elections, and the Media Development and Diversity Agency has partnered with the IEC, all in an effort to reskill community and small commercial media. The emphasis is on coverage and reporting on new legislation and how this will impact the May 29th polls. For this discussion, joining us is Shoeshoe Qhu, who is the CEO of MDDA and is with us here in studio. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much for popping by.
Khotsong, thank you for having me.
There is no overstating the importance of community media, especially around this time of the year or the cycle of our democracy when we head to the polls. Let's just begin by understanding the nature of the relationship that you now have with the IEC in trying to essentially improve how reporting on the elections at that level happens.
Thank you. So from last year, we saw a need to capacitate the community media sector, particularly the journalists that will be covering the elections. And you are right. Community media is the heartbeat of the nation. It's the one place where community members are able to get messages in a level of resonance that they wouldn't ordinarily get because they have access to information in their indigenous languages. So the partnership with the IEC saw us holding this in a series of the workshops that we've held. We had one on Friday with the chairperson of the IEC, and today we've got a hybrid event, and we're looking at the safety and covering and messages in the build-up to the elections. And not tomorrow, on Wednesday, we'll have a workshop where we look at generative AI, artificial intelligence that is, and the impact of that in misinformation and disinformation, and how community journalists can arm themselves with the skills to be able to discern in those messages. So I would say that this has been very important, and community media's role in the coverage of the election is one that's very critical.
Absolutely. The things you've mentioned are issues that commercial media with a whole lot more resources are grappling with, and quite frankly, I think we can safely say in some instances we're struggling. How would you reckon, the community media is doing insofar as that is concerned, given their unique challenges, so to speak?
I think it would be, I have to be honest, the community media colleagues have indicated that they do have challenges. They have challenges of resources, they have challenges of skills, because often people go into the community media, as soon as they get the skills, they come to the SABC, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Part of the mandate of the MDDA is capacity building for the community media sector to build sustainability in that sector. And we are cognizant of these issues that they are facing, and we are building relations and partnerships like this one with the IEC to ensure that we are continuously upskilling the sector to move towards a more sustainable community media sector in the country, and one that's very skilled and is able to fulfill its mandate, which is taken from the constitution of this country. So I'd say that yes, there are those challenges, and if the rest of the commercial media and the public broadcasters facing those challenges, you can rest assured that those in the community media sector are facing them as well. But I must say that it's been very impressive to see the amount of work that community media journalists have done and put on the ground in ensuring that they are communicating and informing community members about the elections, why it's important to vote, and the civic duties. So I'll still say congratulations and well done to that sector, that they are still pulling so much with the limited resources that they have.
Absolutely, and I'm sure it's worth taking a step back in our discussion. I think depending what kind of media you frequent, people might think community media isn't really around anymore, or people aren't engaging with it. But the sense I'm getting from you is that that's far from the truth. There are still a lot of people who rely specifically on this particular medium for information around their world, quite frankly.
Absolutely. Of course, there's been changes in how people generally consume media content. I think we are seeing a generation that's platform agnostic. They could be watching the two of us having this conversation and be on their social media scrolling to see what else is happening and other stories that are developing. What makes community media so unique is the difference in the languages and the nuances that it brings for those communities they broadcast to. Let's take a station like Radio Radio Zibonele, for example, which broadcast from Khayelitsha, while someone would be listening to stories that are happening at a national level, but to get a sense of what is happening in Khayelitsha, one would definitely go to that community radio station. You've got other community print projects that are coming out of the Eastern Cape, which will cover stories that are specific to those areas. And so these are still highly disadvantaged communities or underprivileged communities where accessing information in certain languages is difficult, and access to the internet, which has made it easy for everyone to just hop on and get information as they need, isn't as easily accessible for them. And so community media still plays a very crucial role. And I think we cannot ignore the fact that the majority of the commercial and including the public broadcasters still get skilled journalists and reporters from the community media sector. So I would still say that we don't have to argue for their relevance for content consumption, but also for skills development, but their role also in deepening democracy in this country. I'd say that community media still remains very relevant and very important.
Without a doubt, in a way, it feels like they're keeping journalism alive, right? Young journalists have to come from somewhere. Before we wrap up, since there is a collaboration and we're speaking about that kind of cross-pollination, I wonder to what extent you reckon that could be improved when it comes to how commercial, more established media is actually working in tandem with commercial media. I mean, I remember a time when we were covering the xenophobic attacks in Alexandra. It was actually the local journalists from Alex FM who were very helpful when it came to the detail around who people were, how they're being affected by this, where they come from, and where what we're seeing actually emerges from.
Yeah, so there's definitely a need for partnering. But I will say that thank you to the broadcast funders. There's been so much support, including from the SABC, MultiChoice, and other media platform owners that are independent. I do think that there's plenty of opportunities for us to collaborate. And there's even more opportunities for independent broadcasters and the SABC to partner with the community radio stations in the build-up to the elections. I think I'd like to see a lot more and hear a lot more voices of those community radio journalists on the national platform like this one. And I think perhaps the MDDA should be facilitating those conversations with the SABC and see how we can go on or move on.
Yeah, all right. Shoeshoe Qhu, thanks very much indeed for coming through. We appreciate your time. Very important discussion. There's no overstating that. Shoeshoe is the CEO of the Media Development and Diversity Agency. Once again, thanks very much indeed.